Stephanie. I'm Stephanie Jumbo. Today, I'm super excited as always. I bring you the best news. In fact, I bring you the best guys ever in the entertainment industry. Today I have Carl Joshua Ncube. I said I was going to pronounce his full name. He has been described by CNN African Voices as the new face of Zimbabwe comedy. Huge. He's got a huge profile. He's a director, he's a writer, he's a celebrity chef and an online personality. I'm so honored to have him here in Melbourne. And I'm so privileged to be having a chat with him. Hello.
Cool. What's up? How are you doing?
I am so excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be in Australia.
Melbourne.
I know.
Welcome to Australia.
I know.
5 cities.
I know. This is cool. This is like the biggest thing I've ever done in my life. So.
First time in Australia.
Yeah, first time in Australia with a visa.
I was trying to read about you,
yeah.
and I was just getting all this plenty. First of all, let's talk about you.
Right.
How did you get into comedy?
My dad was a stand-up comedian. He's late now, so I stole his jokes because there's no way that he can come from the dead and come and, you know, so I took his jokes and I started comedy after just watching my dad all my life, and I started late in life, like as a 31-year-old. In the end, like my friends were pushing me to do it, and I ended up just getting on stage and starting my career.
Stop talking to me with so much... I don't know what to describe it with,
yeah.
But I read your profile, you are huge.
Yeah.
You do stand-up comedy,
yeah.
You're a celebrity chef, really?
Yes.
She asked your wife, I'm sure she would have tasted a few of the things you made.
Yeah.
Is that for real?
Yeah, I mean, okay, my father was a stand-up comedian, my mom was a home economics lecturer. So
you
I was taught to
from both
exactly from both sides. So my mom cooks, sews, crochets, that kind of. I know how to do everything that my mom, you know, like watching my mom doing stuff. So the cooking has always been a part of my life. I love cooking a lot, and which is why I'm excited about being in Australia, not only for the comedy but for the food as well. Because I know like Australia is like rich in terms of culinary arts and stuff. Like so many borrowed things like from Asia and that kind of thing. So really excited.
Well, it's very multicultural, even our food. Your wife is a very lucky woman. She will explode all you.
No, she hates how messy I make the kitchen because I love to cook, but I leave the kitchen upside down. So that's not a good thing. So
have a lot of cleaning to do. Oh my goodness! So you do animation. You write as well.
Yeah.
How? Can you tell me a little bit about your creative process?
Right. You know, the thing is, I used to run an advertising agency. You know, pretty much for about 6 years. And then I got fired from my own company, like kicked out. And comedy was just a way of expressing myself in terms of from an advertising point of view. So I do everything myself. I do my websites, I do my graphic design and that kind of thing. So really excited also being part of this movement of African comedy. I mean, we've got like lots of comedy greats that are there, and it's an exciting time for African comedy in terms of like, you know, stretching out to the rest of the world. So it's nice to be part of that process as well, like, and learning quite a lot. Like it's an excellent opportunity to like learn from basketball and stuff. You know, people have watched like on YouTube. You know, thank God for the people who put that stuff on YouTube. So it's good to
thank God for YouTube as well. But let's talk about you as a comedian, because you started out and you have your own one-man show, which is the Big Announcement.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Wow, Big Announcement. I was trying to find a good excuse to propose to my girlfriend, who's now my wife, obviously. So we came up with this idea of a show called Big Announcement, and I would launch myself. But at that time, I was trying to find a way of proposing to my girlfriend, and you know, so I utilized most of that show. And the Big Announcement, she was the one who planned the show. She didn't know she was planning her own proposal, so I made her do all the hard work, finding the sponsors, finding everyone to put the show together, so that I could, you know, at some point at 60 minutes of the show, get down on one knee and then, you know, ask her to marry me. Which she said yes. But I also planned, if she had said no, I had another 1 hour of jokes about her, where I was going to make fun of her and her family and whatever it is. So yeah, I was covered both angles.
Oh my goodness, you're such a lucky man. You've got her in there, she's doing everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk about you and comedy in Zimbabwe as a whole. Where do you think, how do you think they've embraced comedy? Because recently you've been described as the new face of comedy in Zimbabwe.
Right.
What is that industry like in Zimbabwe?
You have to remember that Zimbabwe is in a place where like our politicians and that kind of thing haven't really understood that comedy is not like a dangerous art form. It started out in Zimbabwe, but really the government didn't like it, and it was like really closed down in terms of you know, like the police and shows being shut down, and you know, comics being arrested and that kind of thing. So it died down for a bit. When we came out and started doing comedy again, This was in 2010. The approach was different. It was to make people understand that comedy was a safe art form or a form of expression that could make people happy in difficult times. So I took on this form of trying to bring comedy as just purely entertainment, not political or anything, and got to a point where now the politicians are now starting to embrace comedy. More comics are starting to come out. We realize Zimbabwe is a small country, so we need to travel a lot as comedians and learn things from other countries as well, traveling to Nigeria and so on. So comedy in Zimbabwe is starting to grow quite a bit. We're not starting to see a lot more comics now starting to tour. But the idea, mainly important for me, was to try and open up a playing field where comics knew what parameters they could perform in, so that comedy could actually.
And it's actually a really good thing you're doing in Zimbabwe, trying to bring. And I hear you actually started the first African comedy, where you bring lots of comedians from different African countries to perform?
Yeah, well, what we've done is that we've noticed that there's a gap in terms of African comedy to the world. So sometimes when I'm talking to a lot of my friends in Zimbabwe and I'm telling them of all these great African comics that I've met, most of them don't really know much about it. So what we did is we set up a platform called Feel Good Africa, which is almost like an African comedy channel. And because most of my friends who are comics have content that's already on YouTube. So what we try to do is bring all those YouTube clips together. Like, we don't take the YouTube clips, we just refer to their YouTube channels. And people can actually just go online and just watch all the YouTube clips in one place. So that it's not so we make graphics in between, and we make promos, and we encourage people to say, this week, like follow this comic or write bios of these comedians. So that's what the objective is to one day have our own kind of HBO or Comedy Central of Africa that's actually run by our own comics, and it's showing people what African comedy is about.
Wow, that's huge dream, and I hope you get achieved. You've spoken a lot about your wife since you started this interview. She's a really beautiful woman. We had your wedding in the Bahamas.
Yes.
How do you manage work and marriage? Because you have a lot of things you do.
Yeah.
How do you balance it?
It's actually very cheap, because most of our meetings are when we wake up in the morning, we don't actually have to wake up and go to the office. Like, as soon as we wake up in bed, we can have a few meetings. Once we finished our meetings in the bathroom, we can have a couple more meetings. By the time we actually get into the office, we've pretty much done, and we can go back to the bedroom for a couple more meetings. It's such an easy process. You don't need electricity. Sometimes it's you switch off the lights and it's cool. But it's such a privilege to be able to work with your spouse, because what she does is she fights for our family. That's what it is. So when she looks up, she knows what my needs are in terms of when it comes to bookings, things to look out for. So she's really just there to make sure I don't forget dates, and I'm always there on time. That I'm rehearsing my material and that kind of thing. So it's really good. And sometimes there's no person who's more honest with you sometimes than your spouse, who will tell you, listen, you shouldn't do that. Stop making jokes about my ass or whatever it is. Those kind of things.
I'm sure she'll be your #1 critic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, that's awesome. Where do you see, when you're not Carl Joshua on stage, doing your big announcements? Yeah. Who is Carl Joshua?
Wow, I don't know. Just the guy who cooks at home and invites his friends over. I like coming up with ideas, and so I'm an animator as well, so I make cartoons as well. So it's all about trying to create authentic African stories that we can tell our kids stories at the end of the day, that you download onto your iPad. Right now you don't have many African folktales that are on there, and that's the objective. We're trying to get that. So I'm always just in that creative mode, doing quite a lot of things, designing stuff, and I've got a couple of friends of mine who are also comics, call me up. Carl, we need posters for our shows and stuff like that. I'll do posters and send through. So I'm just constantly in that creative space.
Wow, talking to you, I think I'm learning a lot. He is one of Zimbabwe's favorite and most loved comedian. Thank you so much.
I'm the biggest one, because I'm 6'2", and most Zimbabwean comics are about 5'8" going down. So I'm still.
So you're the biggest comedian in Zimbabwe.
Yeah, physically, yeah.
That's a big title. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. So and I want people to be able to follow you on social media and explore with Carl Joshua. Cool. How can they find you on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube?
Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Just look for Carl Joshua Ncube. If you can't pronounce Ncube, that's the sound that Skippy the bush kangaroo would make into that sound. Yeah. So
say I need to know Ncube.
Like when you're kissing, that's the sound. Like that's where that Ncube comes from. Yeah.
So do you actually have to do Ncube?
Yeah, Ncube.
Oh, yeah, I didn't get it.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah. Anything else it's something else altogether. So,
I can't learn. I'll probably know overnight.
Yeah, just watch Skippy the bush kangaroo. Okay. You just get that. Yeah,
I've been here so long, so I should know the signs.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, and
Cool.
I wish you all the best with your career.
Awesome.
I have just had a chat with Carl Joshua. No,
Yes.
thank you so much for spending this time with me, and all the best with your career.
Thank you so much.
And as for you out there, you have been on the One-on-One with Stephanie show. Keep it locked down. Actually, we'll be having a chat with Basket Mouth when I get to see him. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a lovely day. Bye. Thank you.